I'm going to get straight. Welcome. Arsenal head down to the Riverside to take on Fulham at the Cottage. I'm coming at you live with the lineup. And actually, I have to say, it's great. This season, we seem to be able to put the team lineups out without having to wait like 5 minutes after. They're out now. This was out 10 minutes ago, so completely wrong-footed me. But I'm going to get straight to it because you want to know who's playing and who isn't. First of all, I'm going to go through the Arsenal team. We can talk about the Arsenal B team in a minute. But first of all, in goal, David Raya, no surprises. Brilliant save against Manchester United. And Zinchenko's probably at fault for giving away the free kick that led to it. So he's not in the team. Instead, Jurrien Timber plays at left back. I don't know about you. I've definitely preferred him at right back recently. Left centre back is Jakub Kiwior. Again, he didn't look bad at all against Man United. They didn't have a lot going forward. There wasn't a lot about them, really. Maybe this game's a bit more of a challenge for him because Fulham at home, as they've shown recently, are no slouches. So Jakub Kiwior is partnered by William Saliba, and I hope William Saliba steps up and has another great game alongside him. Then he's gone Thomas Partey at right back. It's probably going to be the most controversial element of the team lineup because Thomas Partey's been playing brilliantly, but not a right back. So note of caution, obviously, when doing these, that's the 4 defenders and the goalkeeper, right? So it is possible that we've decided to play a slightly different way with 3 at the back. I don't know, though. I think it's likely that we'll see that Thomas Partey inverting from the right back, which I don't think he's ever done brilliantly well, but nor has he ever done stupendously badly. And look, we've got to have enough about us today to beat Fulham. Yesterday's game between Liverpool and Everton being postponed because of the storm gives us an opportunity to make up points. Yes, they'll have games in hand, but you'd rather have the points on the board. So in the midfield, he's gone because Thomas Partey is obviously at least nominally at right back. Jorginho steps into that defensive-minded midfield position with Declan Rice again in a more advanced midfield position, the left 8. Martin Odegaard is, of course, Captain Odegaard, Captain Norway, wonderful footballer. Everybody appreciates you so much more after you've gone for a little bit, but certainly Martin Odegaard makes us tick, makes us better. Ahead of those 3, Bukayo Saka, the star boy, star man. We're going to have to start calling him star man soon enough. Potential Ballon d'Or winner, not as good as Foden, somewhere in between. You make your mind up. For me, he's really a reincarnation of David Rocastle and will forever be one of my favourite players who I hope never leaves. And ahead of him, Kai Havertz, who isn't in that category, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that's really developed the fondness for Kai Havertz, his touch, his technique, his positioning. If not, maybe his finishing, although we have seen improvements in that. He had a chance one-on-one against Onana on Wednesday, and he didn't take it after a lovely move by Trossard and Odegaard, which frankly is disappointing. But the rumours around players who might be coming in as a striker persist and will continue to persist. But alongside him on the left is possibly another contentious decision. It is for me anyway, because Martinelli starting, Trossard coming on is, I think, has worked better. Although Trossard has looked better both times he's come on for Martinelli, and Martinelli is on the bench. The rest of the bench is made up of so Gabriel. Just to run through this, Gabriel is not playing again, which is deeply frustrating. I was going to say worrying. I'm not really worried. I know he's not seriously injured. It's not a Ben White level injury. And so far we've coped, but I hope it's not longer term. Neto in goal. Kieran Tierney is on the bench. Just another sign of how far he's fallen. Because honestly, look, if you've got a really good left back on the bench and you've decided to move your right back to left back, where he can play, we know that Timber can play there, and move a defensive midfielder who has been playing really well in defensive midfield to that right back position, then Kieran Tierney's days are most definitely numbered. Aidan Heaven, who had a fantastic pre-season, with all due respect, Aidan, I'm hoping we don't have to bring you on in this game. Miles Lewis-Skelly is back in the first team squad. I think that's a really good move. He, of course, has been repurposed as a defensive left-sided defensive player. Much more of his time has been spent in defensive midfield. Raheem Sterling. Well, look, whatever you think about Raheem Sterling coming in, you can't say it's worked. It just hasn't worked. He's still stepped up in places. He's looked decent in games, but he doesn't get enough minutes, and he never seems to bring him on. Mikel Merino, also after that injury when he first got here, hasn't really settled into the position yet. Gabby Jesus, who scored 1 goal this year. Gabriel Martinelli, as I said, who I prefer to start him and bring on Trossard, but it ain't my decision. And then Ethan Nwaneri as the other substitute. So looking at the Fulham side, or as I like to think of them, the Arsenal B team, this is a really important match for us. Probably not quite so much for them. They're comfortably top half of the table. They can make a push towards the European places. Had a fantastic result against Brighton where Iwobi scored in the first 4 minutes, and then an absolute cracker to score the third. They've looked decent, and this is going to be, the weather is going to be up, the wind is going to be swirling. God knows what that does to our trademark corners. You can't predict football. That's what's beautiful about it. You certainly can't say that a team is out of the title race in December. So looking at their squad, Bernd Leno, former Arsenal goalkeeper. How long ago that seems now. In between the sticks. And then they've got Robinson. Anthony Robinson is playing as their left back. On the right, they've got Kenny Tete. Then it's Bassi and Diop as their centre-backs. Lukic and Sander Berger in the midfield, sort of defensive-minded midfield. The front three behind Jimenez, who starts as their sole striker. Iwobi, Emil Smith-Rowe, and Traore. This is a good side now. I think Emil Smith-Rowe's performances since he moved there have been really good, really strong, shown us what we've missed, if you like. And I'm gutted he left. I really am. But I wish him all the best, except for today. Their subs bench, not as good as ours, obviously. But as I said earlier, there is no Reece Nelson for them to bring on. Ryan Sessegnon, Andres Pereira, Harry Wilson, Rodrigo Muniz, Martial Godo, Timothy Castagna, Joshua King, and Stephen Bender. Prediction for the match? Got a tough one to call this. I always get a little bit worried going to Fulham. Obviously, it was one of the games we lost. One of the games we lost last year. And what was deeply frustrating about losing that game wasn't because Fulham were crap side or anything like that. It was just because we didn't really turn up. There wasn't the energy. There wasn't the intensity of our game. We've had 4 days rest since a really decent performance against Manchester United, but nothing really super exciting. I haven't got a problem with us winning games with set pieces. It's a long season. You can't have fireworks every single time. But our last away trip, of course, was West Ham United, and that was a much better performance. We went at them nice and early. We scored the goals nice and early, and that takes a lot of the pressure off. Fulham are not a team we want to get into a dogfight with. They are a really high-standard football team who's pushing on. And Marco Silva's a great manager. They've made some great signings. They are a little bit of a worry to me, especially because it's a Sunday afternoon. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what to expect. But I am going to go for a win. I think they're likely to score, though. So I'm saying I think it'll be 2-1. But if I had to, I'm probably just being a little bit cautious. It could easily be a 3-1 or more. What a big result here could mean for us. particularly with later Chelsea and Tottenham taking each other on. And I don't really, I'm going to be doing a watch along for that one. So please join me if you're interested in hearing an Arsenal fan commentate on Chelsea, Tottenham. You can't, when I say hate's too big a word, usually it is. Usually. Not always. But in any case, with Chelsea playing later and probably getting the 3 points against a frankly lackluster Spurs side, with Liverpool, of course, not playing because of postponement. And I don't know how you feel about that. Do you feel that was good or bad? Because obviously without them getting any points at all, we can gain a lead. Well, not a lead, but we can close the gap. If we can close the gap to 4 points, then all of this talk about the title's over. I know they've got a game in hand, but it doesn't mean the same thing. Obviously, Man United fell apart yesterday. And today's shock news that Dan Ashworth has left, quote unquote, by mutual consent, which I think we all know means he was sacked. What's remarkable about this is that, of course, Dan Ashworth was with the England setup, started with West Brom, went to the England setup. Then he was seen as a key player in making Brighton one of the best run clubs in world football, certainly in the Premier League. Great eye for recruitment, apparently. He was then snapped up by Newcastle, and under his guidance, they've made some absolutely brilliant signings. Then in January of this year, so a whole year ago, Man United made it known that they like to hire him. He was under contract. The wrangling went on for ages. It almost went to arbitration. They finally settled out of court I think it was quite a large amount of money, between 3 and 5 million. He then had to do 5 months gardening leave. So when it was announced in January, he didn't actually start at Man United as sporting director until July, and therefore, and has now been sacked or has agreed to leave by mutual consent. They're going to have to pay 3 or 4 million to get rid of him. This hot on the heels of Ten Hag leaving after he'd come in, and that was an £11 million settlement fee. So essentially, in the last couple of months, Man United have gotten rid of, sporting technical director and the manager. And this after spending money, which would have been overseen by both those two figures in the summer transfer window. So Man United, if you really want a joke club, it is Man United. They are constantly shooting themselves in the foot, but maybe this is a good decision for them. What it feels like is that Ruben Amorim had different ideas. Would you take Dan Ashworth at Arsenal? We're obviously looking for, there are many other candidates to talk about. One that I thought was really interesting was Mark Goldbridge said he would quite like Ralph Rangnick as the technical or / sporting director at Man United. Of course, he's somebody I was quite interested in. It's gone a bit cold, but also, look, what this means is that with them making this shock sacking, that Man United, who I think do need to bring in transfers, even though their biggest job has to be clearing people out, Man United will be going into the January transfer window with no sporting director, brand new manager, having spent a lot of money on players that may not fit. I think Dan Ashworth is something we're going to talk about tonight. There will be a watch along for the Spurs-Chelsea game. Please make sure you come along and watch that with us. If you're a Gooner, and you, be honest, don't watch it if you like either of those two sides, because it's not that. I'm not going to call it a hate along, because hate is usually too strong a word and it gets used too much, but it might not be the wrong word this time. That's as far as I'm going to say it. And then later tonight for a rundown of how the whole weekend went, and some news and videos coming out. So it's going to be a busy day, but it starts at Craven Cottage, where Arsenal B host Arsenal, first team, hopefully with a chance to closing the gap on Liverpool, whose game was postponed yesterday, to 4 points. And let's face it, if we don't win this, we will be in third place at the end of the night. Manchester City is another team we can look at. I did a little short taking the P out of typical City, who on they played Wednesday, didn't they? On Wednesday was when they beat Fulham 3-0, which is the up and down of it all. When Man City beat Fulham 3-0, he was eulogizing about how everyone was scared again. And, well, I'm not. Fandabiruzi! I wasn't hiding. The game got cancelled. The Saturday morning game got cancelled, and I just had a chill out day. But I'm back today. I've got a spot cooking to do. I'm making beef goulash for guests. But in between that, I will get to watch Arsenal B versus Arsenal first 11. There's not enough people. Make sure you click like and subscribe, not just on the way in, because this is going to be a very short stream. But Rosie, please join me later on as we watch Chelsea and Tottenham. It's going to be a lot of fun, that one, because I can't think of two teams I like less. And then, of course, post-match discussion points. And I do just want to say to the friends and family of Michail Antonio. Michail Antonio had a car accident yesterday. Looked absolutely horrific. He is apparently in stable condition. No one wants to see that. I wish you nothing but love and a speedy recovery. West Ham's leading Premier League goal scorer. But I've been through the lineups. I've given you my prediction. All there is to do now is sit and bite my nails through what is going to be a tense, terse, tight affair. They're not a bad team, this lot. I mean, we know that because so many of them were trained by us. Rosie, make sure you're around for the later afternoon kickoff. I look forward to hearing from you. Hopefully we get a few of the others in. I'll advertise it now rather than springing on you last minute. And until I see you later, be lucky. Lots of love.